So I have been watching the special session here in Nevada all day today. The Senate, they've gone to recess. Before that, they were listening to testimony from people both for this project and opposed to this project. And I want to talk about both the good of this project and the bad as well, and give my input, and at the end, talk about my recommendation, as if anybody really cares. But I want to talk about both the good and the bad of this, because I think what we get in the habit of doing is when we are for something, everything about it is good. And when we're against something or opposed to it, everything about it is bad. And that is certainly not the case with this particular project. It's very complex when you're talking about the minutia of this bill and the potential outcomes for it. So my hope is that I'm able to enlighten somebody as to maybe a good that they hadn't thought of or a bad that they hadn't thought of, and kind of bridge the gap between those opposed and those for. Whether I do that or not, we'll see, but that's kind of my goal here. We'll start with the good. Right off the top, obviously it's jobs. The jobs created are going to help with tax revenue for the city, the county, the state, and obviously that's a good thing. My problem with the jobs argument, however, is that the best paying jobs are short term. The long paying jobs, the short term being the construction workers, the long term jobs are all or most going to be low paying jobs, or at the very least, a very low paying average. You're talking about parking attendants, concession workers, most of the security, just attendants in general, the people that sell programs, that sort of thing at the stadium, game day and different events throughout the year. And they're also part-time jobs as well. So they're very, very low paying jobs. Whereas the construction workers are, by and large, high paying, livable wages jobs. And those are all short term, because once the project is gone, then they're gone. And then we have to find another way to put these people to work. And so the other issue with that is that both the convention center expansion and the stadium, they would be built simultaneously. So we don't have the ability to kind of structure one before the other. That being said, we build the stadium, then the convention center expansion. That would help the construction workers stay and work a lot longer, because they finish one project and they move over to the other. And my fear in that is that it's going to cause us to hire a lot of people from out of state. So what happens is when both these projects are done, then the jobs are gone and we have twice as many people out of work as if we just did one and then the other. But again, both of these need to get built, and time is not on our side. Another benefit to this project is hopefully growing our long-term economy. And I'll get into that in a little bit later. We obviously have a larger convention center, which will bring more convention center attendees, more conventions, more conferences, etc. And an executive from CES, which, if you don't know, is the Consumer Electronics Show. It's our largest show of the year. It's usually the first week or the second week of January. He stated that if the convention center expansion does not take place, that CES will have to look to move the convention when the contract is up. And now that's a scary proposition, because that show alone brings tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to the economy. And that is for 1 week of the year. Imagine how big that is. So that's scary. You have to think about that, and you have to take that into account. We are losing a lot of convention business to specifically Orlando. They have a lot of space to do it. Their convention center is state of the art and very, very large, and we have been losing a lot of business to Orlando. So that's something we have to keep in mind. Another big benefit is UNLV under one condition. Now, if UNLV is able to play in the stadium, then what happens there is, if they're able to get to be into a Power 5 conference, then they receive a lot of money. I mean, the average Power 5 conference school receives about $3 million per game in a Power Five conference, whereas they're not obviously right now. So it would be a great benefit for them to get into a Power Five conference with football. You're talking, 10 games a year. That's $30 million a year. It's probably 20 million more than what they would get staying in their current division right now, current conference rather. And what happens there is they have more money to spend on education. They improve the school, the facilities. They get more people to go there. That grows our economic base. Now businesses look and they say that we have a well-educated workforce there in Nevada. Let's move our operations there because Nevada is already very pro-business. That is a gigantic benefit. The problem with that is that there's no guarantee of us getting into a Power Five. So you're really rolling the dice on that. But that would be the best possible outcome of this stadium. It's not the Raiders. It isn't job. Well, in the end, it becomes jobs. But you know what I'm saying. What happens is UNLV will help bring the businesses here because we have a much more educated workforce, more people going to the school, etc. Great benefit. Those are the good. We're going to talk about tourism in a second because I don't necessarily think that we're going to see an increase in tourism like many people think. For the stadium, now the convention center, that's different. We already talked about that. Let's go to some of the bad. As written in the bill, and I have read the entire bill draft, the bonds will go to the stadium first, before education bonds, before infrastructure bonds. So if we see a long-standing recession, and I know in the bill they say that the 0.88% for the stadium actually more than we'll be way above what we need to be to pay the bonds off. So even if we suffer a recession, we've got enough of a cushion. Again, you're rolling the dice. And when you're doing that with public money, you got to be more careful, So the bonds go to the stadium first. That is a huge red flag for me. Bonds should never go to a stadium first. Another bad, we get nothing tangible back. It's all thought of as an increase in tourism. Well, tourism is going to increase, and I want to address that now. How do you know that tourism isn't going to increase? Let's say you have somebody that comes to Vegas twice a year. Do we really think they're going to come a third time? Or do we think that they are just going to make sure that the second time they come, or the first time, what have you, is, coalesced with an event at the stadium? We are making it seem that tourists have an endless supply of money. They could come here anytime they want. Now, we have seen a great deal of international travelers come here. A lot of Europeans, because their dollar is still stronger against ours, are still coming, here by and large. And I work in the tourism industry, so I understand that we are seeing a lot more international travel. And we've got, a Chinese airline that's going to be flying here, coming up, I believe next month. They're going to be taking trips out here. So international travelers are not going to come to support the stadium. So then you bank on Americans coming here, people that watch and love the NFL coming out here. I'm not convinced, and there is no data, there are no statistics, there is nothing you can show me, because it doesn't exist, where people would come an additional time to Vegas to watch their team, because they don't have tons of money. So not all of them, at least, not many of them either, if you look at a lot of the economic indicators. So now you're banking on, you're just taking from one hand and putting into another. Instead of them going to see, for example, at the Bellagio, they're going to go to a football game instead. That's not bringing any more money into our economy. That's just bringing it from July into October, what have you. It's just a different time of the year that the money gets here. That's a very big bad. Another I have is that at some point you hit a tipping point when it comes to tourists putting on the brakes. Now, I understand that ever since, MGM and Caesar started gobbling up all these properties, they have shareholders they need to appease, and they need to make sure they're making more money. But you hit this tipping point where, we got to this problem in the nation, and I'm going to preach for a second, where You say, well, it's only this much. It's only a few cents. It's only an extra dollar. You're not going to even feel it. Well, then the next year comes around. It's only an extra dollar. It's only a few more cents. And you get to the point that we are now, where you don't see it because it was so subtle. It just slowly, slowly, slowly crept up. Now, that's not to say that taxes and the government can't help do good. I'm just stating the fact that we get to this point where there's going to be eventually a tipping point where things just get too expensive for people and they just decide to use their money elsewhere or for different purposes. You know, and that's a scary proposition as well. So we want to avoid that. MGM just instituted, parking fees, and it's only a matter of time before Caesars sees that they have a chance to make money on that, especially the fact that they're going through bankruptcy right now, where they implement the exact same thing. And MGM and Caesars pretty much owns the entire strip. So you're going to hit that tipping point. So now you've got $10 a day for parking if you're driving from California or Utah or Arizona, what have you. And then you're going to add this tax, 0.88%. There are some rooms here in Vegas that go for $400 or $500 a night. That's going to be an extra, over $5 per night. And again, it's only $5 a night. We come right back to my argument. They just keep adding to it. We are banking on intangibles with this project, things that we just do not know if they are going to happen, which I think I alluded to earlier. And that is always scary when you have to guess what's going to happen. When it comes to public dollars, my opinion, you have to have a tangible return, which this deal doesn't. Now, one of the biggest arguments the people against have are we don't want to subsidize a billionaire. Now, I have no problem subsidizing billionaires or millionaires. We do it at work. People that work for minimum wage are subsidizing their much wealthier boss, by being there. They're making this while they make that. They're doing the work. And not to say they don't, because business owners do a great deal of work. I know firsthand. But I have no problem subsidizing them. But we have to get something tangible back for it. And in this bill, there is nothing tangible. It's give us $750 million and watch tourism grow, and you can reap the benefits from people coming to town to watch the team. No. Yeah, so, and another thing. When this deal first started, it started as a deal for UNLV. We call it the Trop 42. It was 42 acres at the Tropicana and Paradise, I believe. Tropicana and Koval, Tropicana and Paradise, to build a stadium specifically for UNLV. Well, once Sheldon Adelson got his hands on this deal, it changed, and then the Raiders came into it, and it was still $1.4 billion. Adelson was supposed to give $250 million. Now, this is important. So overnight, the deal went from $1.4 billion, with us giving $750 million, to $1.9 billion, and us still giving $750 million. Adelson was saying, well, this project's going to cost so much more, so I'm going to give you all this extra money. And then that's when they started saying, we need everything back because you don't really get a return on a stadium. So now, and I know this is long, and I know you're probably not even watching it anymore, and that's fine. This is the most important part. Watch what happens, and mark my words. This stadium, if passed, come on, be honest. Adelson has donated 75% of the legislature this year. This thing is getting passed. When passed, watch the total amount spent to be about $500 million under budget. And then watch Adelson have $500 million in his pocket and then get all the benefits from the project, even though he didn't put any of his, because public money goes in first, along with the NFL and Mark Davis, and then Adelson's money goes in last. So he's just going to cover the end cost. Watch. I'm telling you right now. He is playing our legislators for fools if that happens. So, kind of lumping all these together, and I know this is a very complex bill. This isn't a complete argument, but it's just kind of talking points for the good and the bad. There are some very good things. Most notably, UNLV possibly becoming much wealthier university, and that in turn spurring, entrepreneurs themselves, bringing businesses into Nevada, into an already pro-business Nevada. So that's great. The job situation, great. So I think you know where I'm headed with my recommendation. Reading this bill draft, I want a stadium. I don't think people realize that I am an NFL fan. I am a football fan. I love the NFL. I love college football. And even high school football, if it's, played at a high level. I love watching football, and I would love a stadium here. And I am excited about the prospect of having a stadium here. But not this deal. This is a horrible, horrible deal for this city, the county, and the state. They are asking us to give $750 million to not ask where the money goes, and we get nothing back for it. That right there is a deal breaker. If I gave you $5 because you said, well, hey, watch, if you give me $5, I'll give you $15 back, for argument's sake. So you give them $5, and then they just disappear. You don't know where they went. You have no idea if you're going to get that money back. Even if they stated, well, this is how you're going to get your money back. Because I'm going to go up to people, and for every dollar I give them, they're going to give me $2. And this is a simplistic version. You are counting on that person to do that for you with absolutely no hard evidence that it's going to take place. And that's this deal. That's this deal in a nutshell, is that we are giving money away. We have no idea if we're going to get more tourism. None at all. So that's my recommendation, and I know you don't care, and I'm sure this video got turned off about 10 minutes ago. But this thing is going to get passed, and the only thing that we can do about it is make sure it never happens again in this form and fashion. So, yeah, that's it. And if you have any comments, please let me know. My Twitter handle is @JAMESSCOU. I've been tweeting, retweeting things about this for the last 2 days. It's really caught my interest. I'm a political junkie anyway. So, tweet at me, let me know your thoughts, and let's have a debate about this, a non-contentious, respectable debate about the goods and the bads, because there are both. I just think the bads outweigh the good. This bill in particular is horrible. Make us a partner. Give us something. Levi Stadium, they were given, when the city of Santa Clara built this stadium, they were given a 9-figure sum for the stadium naming rights to help pay down the debt. And no new taxes were raised to do it. It's a much different deal, in my opinion, a much better deal, although I haven't looked at all the provisions in there. I have looked at it from the outside, and just seeing that the city receives something for it makes it a better deal. Let me know what you think at Jamescow, JAMESSCOU on Twitter. Thank you guys, and I will be watching this for as long as this goes on, because this really has piqued my interest as a community member here in Las Vegas, and more importantly, the state of Nevada.